Listen, we are here talking about these upcoming and technically already finished film festivals that we've got going on between the CineYouth Film Festival and the Doc10 lineup, which includes a lot of movies that we saw at festivals earlier this year. And they have 10 movies, so they know that they're picking the best out of the best. And we've been lucky enough to go to Doc10 before a couple of years ago. It was actually in 2018 as I pull this up over here. A little sketch we were back in the day when we were talking about the documentaries. And I remember this being like a really good film festival. And it's located all here in Chicago. So we want to break down Doc10 first, get into the CineYouth top picks that we have because it's all shorts. And down below, you should be able to see we have articles for both of these. So in case you wanted to keep up on it, we have an entire one on the site for the Doc10 Film Festival, which started last night. But we have some really good ones that we're going to get through. So it is a jam-packed festival. In terms of documentaries. And then in terms of shorts, these are ones that already played. They played for free, but they may even be on the horizon for Chicago, and we've got some good ones there. So those are linked down below in case you just want to jump right to those, or if you want to follow along. We also do have what's going to be our little Patreon perk. We love Notion. Notion allows me to keep all my notes, everything that I need. So we're going to be posting this for the patrons as well. But let's just get into the Doc10 Film Festival because it already started. Maybe someone watches this and goes to the first screening.
You have 3 hours to purchase a ticket.
3 hours to purchase a ticket. But
get to the theater.
It's going to be some good ones because they actually have a lot of guests. So let's begin with that. The Doc10 Film Festival has, as it says in the name, 10 films. And the first one that they began with was Little Richard, which played at Sundance. We were able to catch like just a little of Little Richard.
A little taste.
It is out now for you to purchase. So in case you missed it at the festival and all the other ones, it's pretty much the price of a ticket. You can get it there. And I think it's a pretty good documentary that we were able to catch after the fact from Sundance. I'm surprised they haven't made a Little Richard feature film yet, but I think that's because they know the moment they do, they're never going to make an Elvis Presley documentary or feature again. But Little Richard is one that you can purchase, either rent, have at home without having to even, leave the house, go to a theater. So Little Richard is the first one that we have on the horizon here. The next one that we have is Still, the one that played last night. We were struggling to get the thing working here. If not, I would have told y'all. But if y'all were already listening, you would know that this was one of the best ones out of Sundance. Alina did not have the chance to catch this.
I did miss it.
Well, that sucks, bro. Because Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, is one of the best ones out there. It is obviously telling the story of Michael J. Fox, but does it in a way that might have some of the best editing of the year. Forget a doc. Just feature films in general. It goes through a lot of the history in terms of how he was jumping from feature to feature. It sits him down to break down what his life has been like. But again, the way that they're able to just go into the archives, he will say something. And they will find something from a movie or a TV show that he was in. And you would swear he went back to the future. He went back in time to be able to make that an insert for this documentary. Shout out to everybody involved with this. We got to see him also at Sundance. He was there for one of the screenings. And I know he has been doing some interviews and Q&As. The director was there for the Doc10 feature. And I would highly recommend it. This one's coming to Apple. So while these two have already played at Doc10, they are both worth seeking out. And this one should be on Apple by the summer, if I'm not mistaken.
Should be.
I personally think they're going to take this one all the way because it is one of the best documentaries of the year. The next one that we have here is The Disappearance of Sheer Height. This is another one that we caught at Sundance. It's going to be Sun, or it's going to be South. It was earlier this year when we were able to go see this one, and we had a surprise appearance, not by Sheer Height, but by, why am I blanking on her name? Dakota Johnson.
Herself, yes.
She does the voice over in this documentary for what is a look back at the author who wrote one of the biggest books dealing with sex. Yep. And a lot of people did not like that. So you had a lot of people kind of arguing against it, people who were for it. And while I wouldn't say it's so much about the disappearance of Sheer Height, it kind of flips you with the title there. It is a movie that's looking back at all of the work that she's done before she kind of disappeared. Again, you have Dakota Johnson voicing Sheer Height because a lot of the interviews that they may not have are voiceovers that she's doing from a lot of the stuff that she wrote or different things that she left behind, journals that she's able to come bring to life. I thought she did a fantastic job because you can go from an interview of Sheer Height talking and then the voiceover of Dakota Johnson, and it fits perfectly. I've also talked about the diss she did at the Q&A. Dakota Johnson is known for being quick-witted, and she keeps it here. So if you're curious on this documentary, I know that NBC had something to do with it, so there's a chance that if you miss it at the fest, it will be playing on Peacock. So keep an eye out for that. First Line, all great documentaries in my opinion. I'd give them the thumbs up. This next section here, we've seen 2/3 of them. And the first one is a very interesting movie. Confessions of a Good Samaritan played at South by Southwest. And they're going to have a Q&A with her tonight, director Penny Lane. She has made movies in the past that I found to be very interesting, which is why I had this one on my radar. She made this one called Hail Satan, which played at another Chicago Fest. I don't know if you remember this. This one, if I'm not mistaken...
Is that where they protested? Yes,
they
okay.
protested outside of the music box, and in protesting that, they had the wrong screening. Hail Satan wasn't even showing at that time. And then on top of that, it had more people interested in the movie. This one goes all out. She pretty much makes herself the subject of this movie and decides to give up a kidney to a random stranger in the most altruistic documentation, personal journey, however you want to call it. I found it to be really interesting. I found it to be very cringy at times as well. And it kind of explores more than this act. Longing? You know, a sense of community, this idea of not just why you do good things, but who you do good things for. Should there be a limit there? I found it to be really fascinating. I personally would say that you should check this one out, especially when it's out as a rent-it. But I'm very curious to see what she's been saying in the Q&As because, I mean, she directs a lot of the documentary to the audience. She practically looks at you and goes, why aren't you doing this? But I think the journey that she goes on and going from different hospitals and kind of just documenting what she had to go through to just do this act.
The growth there, yep.
But also, like, the
progression of...
The trouble to even say, I want to do this good thing, and they're like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah.
Why are you trying to stop me?
Yeah, why are you trying to stop me from helping a stranger? Was also pretty interesting. So I'm curious to see what the Q&A has in store for Confessions of a Good Samaritan playing tonight at the Gene Siskel. I think that's also a big thing to bring up. They are playing stuff at the Gene Siskel, as well as the Davis Theater. You and I have not been to the Davis Theater.
We have not.
So I'm curious to maybe catch one of the final ones there. But if you're catching something at the Gene Siskel, it's a beautiful theater. We were able to go there last year after they had opened up. And not only are you in front of the Chicago theater, so you have some beautiful shots there. It's got some of the comfiest like rocker chairs there too. So I would highly recommend catching some stuff at the Gene Siskel if you can. The next one that we have is part of the Shorts program, which shout out to the PR team. They were able to give us links to a majority of these shorts right here. So to break some of them down, we have the two that really stood out to us right off the bat would be this one called Dust Away. This is a movie about the workers who they hired to clean up Ground Zero.
Yep.
And how because most of them were undocumented, they didn't have to worry about any of the repercussions. It's shot beautifully. They do like a lot of just zoom-ins, not just on rubble, but on a lot of these people who aren't really allowed to show themselves because they can be deported, so much less, you know.
They make kind of like a miniature, and they kind of show certain images that they might have of those memories, whether a vest or the... What do you call them? Those lanyard, like the...
It's like recollections of...
Yeah, you kind of have that memory, but they also show you how they're suffering after the fact. They show you all the medicine they have to take and how they're suffering now, and it's...
The fact that it's fragmented memories already showcases how, like, it's slipping away, and that's kind of the reason why they hired this specific group that... I think that they even mentioned that it took like a decade for them to even realize that there were other people who were suffering, which is insane in and of itself. And it took them coming together in a group to even make a difference. And then this documentarian came in to really just collect a lot of their stories. I think this is a standout. This is one where it should be a feature film. Because obviously one of the biggest things when you're dealing with shorts is that it's really hard to even, like, where are you going to capture them? Who's going out of their way?
How do you find these people?
Yeah. To catch a short, unless it's streaming somewhere.
To then even be willing to go on camera. I mean, that's just a whole...
So Dust Away is easily one of the standouts from here. One that Alina had, that she saw, I think, at Sundance.
I believe it was at Sundance, yeah.
You loved this movie. Margie Sodek's Salt and Pepper Shakers. The moment they sent this link, Alina said, boot that up right now.
Immediately.
Why'd you love this one?
So the story is that this visual effects instructor, she's going to her grandmother's house, and the grandmother collected salt shakers way back. I think the earliest thing she said was the 20s, 30s, 40s maybe.
A lot.
And it was a lot. She had them in a case behind her, and it was just all these cool little like trinket salt shakers and pepper shakers. And because the filmmaker is an editor, you have like random like visual effects going on and the way they're editing it. So it jumps around a lot, but I just found it very intriguing.
You see like the progression of how she's trying to edit her grandma in these goofy moments. It is very goofy, but in that goofiness, in this collection of what is the most random salt shakers. Some of these salt shakers are not even meant for salt and pepper. They're just meant to like be collected.
Novelty, yeah.
But that's what spawns what is this story of like her connecting to her grandmother, her revisiting her memories, but then also like, why do you collect things? Why do you document things? And it starts getting into a nice little pocket there about why you even collect the art that you collect. So a very interesting one. I'm looking forward to recatching this one. And again, I'm curious to see where they release these. I wish more streaming services were picking up a lot of these documentaries to actually get them out there. One that I am curious, we did not get this. There was ones about an ice cream truck guy who makes like a rap with his son. You had ones about protesters, and you have one about blowing glass. We're only missing one link, and it was for this movie called Twerk for Yemen. And I'm like scared to ask, hey, can you send me Twerk for Yemen? Because it sounds like the most absurd thing. And then we read it, and it's pretty much a documentarian asking people, what can we do to like stop atrocities? And when something's so absurd, I guess you get absurd answers. Yep. This is the only one we're missing. So if you did catch this one, let us know. If you work on film, I don't know, send us a link. But yeah, it was a pretty good standout of documentary shorts to check out here. But the one that definitely stood out, Dust Away. Like, I'm going to be thinking about this one for a while. Going back to the second line of documentaries that we have here is one that's actually on our radar. So we're curious to know your thoughts on this one. Under the Sky of Damascus follows a lot of women overseas that are being documented to the point that, like, I don't know if it's a Zoom Q&A because they can't be here, but you know, they're gonna be tuning in from far away. But like I said, this is one of two documentaries that we have not caught yet that we'll be looking forward to catching soon, hopefully, because this one will be playing tomorrow at the Gene Siskel. Unless they send us a screener. So I'm curious for that one. Under the Sky of Damascus. This next line is also some pretty good bangers. King Cole was one that we caught at the Sundance Film Festival about a town where coal is king. From the school, they come out petting the big piece of coal that they have there. They have like debutante balls to be the coal queen. The dances are about being the king of coal. It's just about how this whole town lives around this. It is their Amazon Prime to that degree. But it's also shot in a very interesting fashion because you'll have what you see here in this still. I'm going to call it an interpretive take on it, but the idea of two girls, this youth that's just trying to be their own outside of the shadow of what the town is known for. It's obviously also a resource that isn't the best in terms of extracting. I think we were kind of split on this. I know the group that we saw it with, some people vibe with it more than others. I want to revisit this one because I think a lot of it can be lost in the, again, the hybridness of it, where she is documenting, but at the same time, it's very artsy in the shots that she's getting, and she's letting that breathe. You know, she's not telling you, hey, isn't this crazy that they worship this rock when they go out? She's just going to show you a bunch of football players kissing this piece of coal. So I would put this on people's radar. It may not be one that you make it out to theaters for, but definitely have a nice screen to watch this at home for King Cole. But it may go up for me. Very fascinating way to look at it. The next one here is one that Alina did not get to catch.
I did not.
And I am saddened because this is one of the best documentaries of the year.
Sounds great.
It won an award, and rightfully so, at Sundance. Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni project. I actually thought it was about an astronaut. It's about Nikki Giovanni. Do you know who Nikki Giovanni is?
I did not know before this doc. Sadly to say, embarrassingly to say, admit.
The biggest badass. Man, Nikki Giovanni is such a cool person. This is one of those movies where like you feel you get to know her a lot, and you know you don't even know a fraction of it. It is following her story and a lot of the talks that she has done throughout. You get to see a lot of interpersonal things when they have her down as a talking head, and where she's kind of like showcasing really every aspect of her life. there's this one talk she has where they want to bring up how difficult it was to grow up in a broken and abused home, and she like just straight up looks at the documentarian and goes, I won't allow that. You want to take me to a place that I don't want to revisit, and I will not allow you to take me there because there's nothing I could do about it.
Nope.
This is just 102 minutes of lines that hit you back to back to back to back. I absolutely love this documentary. Spoiler alert, is one of my top 3, not just of this festival, but of the year. So if you can, definitely go check it out because there's going to be a Q&A with the directors, and they just made one of the best of the year. Going to Mars and Nikki Giovanni Project. One of the best profile pieces, for sure. Up there with the Still documentary. This next one here is that 2 for 2 doc that we are missing. Subject. This is going to be playing at the Gene Siskel Film Center, and it's supposed to be a doc about documentary filmmaking.
Okay.
Like the ethics of it, how far you should be involved. I'm curious to see how they play that off because it seems like it's a pretty short documentary. I'm always worried if a documentary about documentaries ends up
kind of
faulting itself for what it's calling out. They have a lot of people who are going to be here, though. I got really excited because I had seen... I thought they were going to have the director from Hoop Dreams, but it's one of the co-producers. They're going to have a lot of filmmakers from other documentaries as well. So this is one where I feel like the Q&A is going to be probably just as good, if not more intriguing than the subject. Because I'd be curious to see what the Q&A tackles in terms of how they approach documentaries from their own stuff. But I'm curious to catch this one, hopefully making it out there to the Gene Siskel Film Center or getting a link. But again, those are the 2 that we missed. Wrapping it up is...
another one that I missed.
Another one that you missed, but when I pull this up over here on the side, I am always surprised. Like, I go, yeah, this was a really, really, really good documentary. And then I remember me logging in and I go, yeah, this was a really, really, really good documentary. Luke Lorenzen had made a documentary that Zach had really liked over on Internet. He was saying how Midnight Family was the best of the best. He took us out there. And over time, this one has grown on me a lot. And they claim to be making a series out of this one for HBO. This one, like 10 years ago, little old LME, little old art would not be able to appreciate the filmmaking in this. We were just talking about subject and the ethics and the approach. This is a gold medal here. The way he's able to get into this doctor's life, in particular, discussing all of the ins and outs of what happens when a doctor who is dealing with the patients and knows how to deal with those patients is being worn thin because of the schedules, because of the turnover rate, because, being a doctor is still a profession, and you have a lot of people who aren't there for the healthcare version of it. They are there to make sure that there is a free bed all the time. There are moments in this documentary that just wrecked me. I know it wrecked Zach, and it just shows you like what a true hero is. There's another one that we're going to be discussing later on for Hot Docs, which is also happening now. Just watching, 12 movies a day over here. Hot Docs had this one called A Good Doctor.
Okay.
I know A Good Doctor got to you because it's about
The Only Doctor.
Sorry, The Only Doctor, in where she's discussing what it's like to be a doctor in the middle of nowhere where there are no other doctors anywhere else,
in the
right?
county.
In the county. I want to pull that one over here really quick just to make a mention of it. The Only Doctor. You liked this one.
I really did. I mean, she was like the forefront of this little county, the only person providing healthcare coverage, a sliding scale payment thing, because, I mean, people don't have the money for it. And she's there saying, I'm the only doctor here.
I ran this one back too. This one's really good.
So
this one's 3 times. I did the math. 3 times better than that one, and that one's great. A Still Small Voice. It's on the final day of Hot Docs. I cannot recommend this enough, especially because you're gonna have a Q&A with one of the best, like in terms of documentary filmmaking. I've had a couple directors on my radar. From was it In the Same Breath?
Okay.
I'm looking at all my favorite documentarians at the moment. I'm going to add Luke Lorenzen in there. He is in my top 5 documentarians. He hits it on all levels. So I kind of want to be there. I've seen it, but I'd go back and rewatch it just to be able to hear what he has to say on how he approached it. The final one is one that you did see. Going Varsity in Miami. You like this one, right?
Mariachi. Going Varsity in Mariachi.
Did I say Miami? Oh my gosh. Going Varsity in Miami. At Sundance, they actually had the mariachi there at the Library Theater. They were jamming out. I had heard. I don't want to promise it that they might be here because this is going to be the closing night film at the Davis Theater. They're going to have Q&As there with the directors, and I'd be very curious to see how many of them are able to show up there. But you can think of a lot of series like Cheer on Netflix
Yes.
is what a lot of people were comparing it to, where it's not so much the sport of cheerleading. It's almost sport like you have to have the stamina
It's a skill,
to be
it's
in
a
this mariachi.
discipline,
Yeah,
yep.
exactly, and that's a big thing that their teachers teaching them through that, especially when all of the kids are profiled and you see a lot of the different hardships that they have, a lot of them seeking identity. I thought they did a great job in being able to bring all of them together, and it's one of those where, like, in 10 years' time, you're going to want to follow up how many of them are still doing this, or more than that. It's not even sticking with the mariachi side of it. How much of them have they found what they were looking for in joining this group? So I'm very curious to see if they bring out the whole group, but it's going to be the closing night film. This one gets another thumbs up. So again, Doc10, it's not a lot of documentaries, but it's just nothing but hits on all of these over here. So if I were to break down our favorites personally that I would pick, moving it back over here to our little patron thing, I will showcase my top 3 as being still a Michael J. Fox story. So if you can catch this one, highly recommend it. Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni project.
Excited to catch.
And then A Still Small Voice. Those would be my top 3 from the hot docs. It's hot docs, Doc10. Doc10 where the docs are hot as well. That will be playing this weekend. So I'm curious to know people's thoughts on this. If you're able to make it out to the fest, let us know. If you end up adding one of these to your watch list and it becomes one of your must-watches of the year, let us know as well. But moving on from the Doc10, we have the CineYouth Festival, where all of the shorts come from youths. All the youths out there.
All the youths.
We had a pretty solid one last year. What I like about them a lot is that CineYouth does a lot of their lineup over at the Facets Theater, which you and I have not been into.
Okay.
But I know they like rent movies there and stuff. I really want to make it
okay.
out there. We got to make it out there. But what's cool about them, and this is the heads up for next year, they're all streaming for free. You can literally grab every single one of these categories for free and stream it at home. That I really appreciate. We always talk about, we were just saying how difficult it is to stream shorts. So definitely making them this accessible is fantastic, especially because some of these may play at the Chicago International Film Festival, because that's kind of who hosts them. But who knows? That may be the next best filmmaker who's out there. Let's go through a couple of our honorable mentions before we get into the top 10. They had a spooky category where there was this one called Towerfall that you and I thought just had this creepy tone.
It did. I mean, I know sometimes with a VHS or that kind of filter or just like home footage, you know, like the found footage type. It just has this like vibe to it and like the spookiness.
Especially when it's like so abandoned, it just feels like it's like a relic of the past. I thought Towerfall got that vibe perfectly. There was another drama called Sacrificios, which was about a politician who's running, but specifically wants to make sure that he has a Latina wife because it's going to help him in his campaign. I thought that one was pretty interesting. There was this very poetic short called In the Whiteness about a girl who kind of just uses a spoken word to talk about how she feels in her life. Room was one that we were like almost putting in our top 10 because we like what it was going for. It uses stop motion to kind of showcase this guy who's trapped in his room.
Yep.
For what reason? You'll see in the short, but we really like the ending to this, which is why it almost made the top 10 for us. Speak of Metamorphosis of the Old House, because you really like the ending to this animation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing. I mean, it you can see by the picture, you know, taking supplies you find around the house, but at the end you do see the children, the youth, making this little stop motion short. So it's really it's adorable, you know, getting the kids inspired with cinema.
One from the experimental category that we thought was really interesting, the first of which we'll mention, is this one called Red Flavored Number One. I'm just gonna put it this way. It's so weird. I loved it. This is one of those where you watch it and I have no interpretation of it, but I'm down to hear what other people think. So I have this one as an honorable mention. One that also almost made it to the top for us. I really like this one. I want to see what this director does next. The Young Men's Guide to Bloodsucking. I thought it was a very interesting way to kind of show a modern age vampire who like, is he kissing her? Oh, it's like really awkward to kiss her. Oh, can he not get the fangs out? Like, I don't know. I thought they played that line very well. A little bit of a bigger budget, a little bit more tighter. I'd love to see this one as a feature film. So I definitely have this one as an honorable mention. And our final two, this one was in our top 10. It was literally right there, and then we remembered another movie. So I can't believe that we bumped them harder than they were in this short film. But there's this one called Tiny Trooper, Green versus Tan. You watched it and then made me rewatch it because I had missed it. Why'd you love it?
They're fighting for the last Oreo. And it's these little miniature army men. And they have like a little animated around their mouths or whatever, but it's just like this over-the-top thing, you know, shooting them at each other, but they're going for the last Oreo.
It's like Toy Story.
Yeah, a little bit. Like seeing little green army men, you know, like, battle it out, hash it out.
Toy Story and what's the other one with the small soldiers?
Yeah, small toy soldiers.
It's like a blend of that. And then I'm not going to lie. Because I can't say why I like it because it's the ending. They do this thing. We have a theory on the ending on what the filmmaker means. But we have this take on it about, I can't even say the movie it reminds me of. Because if you're thinking of the ending, it is actually the movie that I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And that feature animated film hits at something with that toy that I think this movie was kind of getting at. I can't believe it. Yeah, shout out Tiny Trooper. It probably should have been in the top 10 if These Plastic Men has me thinking this much. And our final one. This one won an award, almost made it. It's called The Taste of 75th. It's about all of these different restaurants and delis, bakeries on 75th in Southside Chicago. And I'm just interested in visiting all of them. It's right on the outskirts of being an honorable mention. But if I go and taste all of these restaurants and they're that good, I might have to bump it up to the top 10. But her restaurant, I liked her swag. She came out, she's like, I'm the CEO.
No one bakes this cake better than I can.
That was right. Oh yeah, her caramel cake. Yeah. So this one has me really intrigued to just go check out everyone that's on the list. But let's get to it. Our top 10 of CineYouth. The first one that we have is this short called Judgment. It played in the humor category, and it's just like, younger me, I would have made this for sure. Judgment, it pretty much follows this kid who's trying to make a movie, maybe within a movie, which I find fascinating because at this point, I'm a guy who likes movies within movies within movies. And does it go over the top? For sure.
But it's entertaining all the way through.
It is entertaining, but it's like I also see when I was making shorts like this, when people were like, oh, you're really going for the bit. And now I'm the old guy going, damn, they're really going for the bit. But you know what? I still really like it. I would recommend this one for anyone who wants a very humorous short. I think it pays off, especially even towards the end. So I'd be curious to see what they have in the future because I like that style. This shot right here in particular, where they're talking to each other and they break the fourth wall, but also break the fourth wall within the fourth wall.
Yes.
So I like that. The next one that we have here is Contagion. Contagion was a standout to me in the experimental category because this one I do have a take on. I don't want to spoil what my take on it is, but it's what I felt was a writer who's going and struggling by not just being isolated in their place, but it's like they continue to get covered in ink. So I'm sure some people can be viewing some of the ink blotches at some Rorschach test.
I could see that. Yeah.
Hey, I thought it was a pretty good take on the creative process, but that's on me. I'm sure a lot of people can take other things in isolation with COVID, with their families. I just know it worked for me, and this is a piece of art I would like to see again. Contagion. The next one is one of the CineYouth winners, As You Are, that covers a couple who have... they're having like a picnic, and then really the rest of the conversation is between the two of them and how they feel in their own bodies. I thought the performances were pretty solid. It's shot in black and white, and I'd be very curious to see what this filmmaker makes next, especially with the way that they were able to direct their actors. So, As You Are, one of the big winners out of the festival. The next one was Let Her Eat Cake. I really liked this one.
This one was pretty good. I enjoyed this one a lot.
You break this one down.
So, it's a story of a gymnast, but we realized then that this girl is working very hard, and you know, with a sport like gymnastic, there is a level of discipline that you have to do, but there's also a certain look and a certain size when it comes to being a gymnast. And her mother is being really hard on her to make sure that she's, you know, making sure like she's keeping with all the things on her schedule. And as the title says, let her eat cake. This scene is very important, and let's just say that as they further that conversation, the mom notices certain things that the daughter starts to do, and you start to feel bad, right? As a parent, how far do you push your child?
There was a movie that we caught at Sundance called Girl, and it kind of had that very similar vibe between two people.
Ah, yes, I remember that one.
And I love that title because you don't know who it applies to. Is it to the girl or the adult woman who still never left that adolescence? Here it's in that sense of vicariously living your gymnastic life that didn't go through your child. I really like the performances they got out of the actors. Obviously, tighten it a bit more, but like I'm very much looking forward to what this director does, and even the actresses in this. The emotion came through to me, especially when they go all out on that scene between the cake. This next one, more. Boy, is this ambitious. We sat there. They put it all on the screen. You could say maybe it's too much. Every single shot meticulously
but I loved it.
Framed, right? But you gotta respect it. I think you had pulled up possibly, the IMDb kind of showcases a couple more shots in this. This is like I won't call it Glengarry Ross or anything like that, but it is a bunch of kids playing adults in this business atmosphere as they're trying to get this deal done.
And where you're boxed in, and all the colors in the background, the production hire them again.
Yeah.
You see all the little post-it? I love that. It adds so much more. Could you just film in a hallway? Absolutely, but look how much that adds into it.
If y'all give these boys a budget, they're going to whip up a really clean meal. That's all I know. So in terms of us getting to our top 5, just know that this is a group, or I don't know if Jackson's also in it. I think Jackson's just the writer-director in this, but this team, I want to see more from them. I want to see what their feature film is.
Do you want to see more?
I want to see more, exactly. So definitely check this one out. I thought it was really interesting. Let's see if I can find where my thing was. Here we go. I believe this gets into our top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Honestly, between these two, More and Poultry Panic, I might have put More in our top 5 so we could have that, top half. But this is so goofy. I had to have it here. Poultry Panic is the story of this chef, line cook, who was promised a duck.
He promises his girlfriend, I'm going to bring home a duck.
He was promised a duck after promising his girl a duck. Yes.
Don't you worry. I'm going to bring this duck home.
Well, he worries. And this is his search on being able to get that duck. I cannot say any more. Other than the fact that it clearly ends on a quack that made it be a part of my top 5. Poultry Panic, there's a reason why it's the cover for the humor section as well. Put this one on your radar because it got me at the end. My number 4 is There's Something About Ryan. I was looking this one up and some people were getting some mixed reviews for this, but at a certain point I was like reading it and when you get on Letterboxd and like someone's just reviewing the other person's review? Bro, there's 3 reviews here and they're like, as everyone else has saying, bro, there's 2 other people. Look, maybe y'all will agree with them, but to me, and I'm so glad it's here so I could mention it. Nice. The scene with this high C, all Alina told me was, bruh, you need to rewatch this, the high C scene. That's all she said. I think it delivers with it. I thought it hit the tone just right. I thought it was really funny. And you and I started theorizing what it meant because it doesn't answer everything. Like it does.
Like it does a little bit.
Character-wise, but not what the heck is...
Oh, it does. I mean... If I miss something, that's one thing, right? But as far as like the arc and the father and and all that is answered.
That is done down pat.
That's nice.
I think it's shot eerily, and the performances were really strong in this as well. And like I said, once you get to that high C bit, I think it delivers in my opinion. This is one of the standouts for the horror one. There's Something About Ryan. Let's get into our top 3. We have Dark Side. This was the one that we forgot to put it here. Now, mind you, I don't even know where to start with this one because Dark Side feels like it has the biggest budget out of every single short. It feels like they took the budget for every other short in this festival and put it in here. Or at the same time, it could have just been a filmmaker who really knows how to use it. It's about an astronaut, almost First Man style, who is going out to retrieve this missing space expedition.
Yes.
And try to bring them back, but at the same time, he's obviously dealing with a loss that happened at home. So in that, you could say it's First Man. But I just want to say, yo, they made this feel with the sound design. And with I swear, one of them, when they were like in the cabin for the spacecraft, it's probably the room's four corners that they just set up. But I thought I was in a spaceship. Shout out to the team, the production team involved with this, and also the story, because the moment it ended, they hit you with something. Mm-hmm. And you saw me put my detective glasses on. I took out the magnifying glass and I went, let me go check this. I ran it back. Guys, it's clean. It clears it. It is a solid, tight script. Dark Side. Top 3 of the fest for us in terms of shorts. Definitely put this one on your radar. Our top 2 now goes to My Sisters in the Stars, the story of Lee Young-soo. You didn't get to catch this one. This is part of the documentary ones that I saw, because sometimes we split the load. I really wish you did. I have to reach out for this one for you. I don't know how a 16-year-old made this. This uses animation to tell the story of a lot of women who were human trafficked from Korea.
Okay.
And it does it in an animated way, which allows them to get into these really dark stories about how they were either used, and if not, abused in separate ways. But there was this climax to this short where someone is revealed something through song. And I like yelled out. And you heard me. So you know when the moment happens. But I want to make sure I get a link for this for you to catch, because this is one that in my opinion, think should go much farther. This is a documentary short that I think should be on people's radars. And if we're talking in terms of shorts with the biggest impact by the end of the year, we got to catch one really early at CineYouth. My Sisters in the Stars, the story of Lee Young-soo. Very, very good short. I know that there's also an IMDb for it, so put this one on your radar if you can. Shout out to those who made it. We've now reached our final one, our number 1 short from CineYouth. Aminata. This is a short film about toll booth workers who are like barely making it by, and they're struggling. That's pretty much what the short is about. They're struggling to make it by. But it's so lived in, right? They're not just crying and sad. They're also hanging out with the boys. They're also trying to see what the next thing is. He's also got to deal with the responsibilities on making sure that he's got enough money. Like you were saying, the guy with the duck who promised his girlfriend. Yeah, that is the least of the worries when you're dealing with these guys here. However, it's also a short where you kind of get aggravated with the dudes. You're like, come on, you should not be doing that. It leads to a final shot that I consider one of the best frame shots of the year. This is a shot that he either needs to make this into a feature film, or someone's got to Quentin Tarantino that shot. It is beautiful. I loved it.
It's perfect as a short. Like I would love to see a full feature, but you know when you get to the full feature, this is like that climax moment. Yeah. Like it all leads up to this point. And it's just beautiful. It's through and through. You know, you have the dude who's always telling you advice at work, you know, talking your ear up through the entire shift. You know, you got the boss who's like, yeah, I will pay you, I will pay you, I will pay you. So it really does move you through, and it really does lead up to that moment.
Yeah, very solid drama, and our pick for the best of CineYouth. So again, if you wanted to check out this list, we have our top 10 there, and I'm hoping that most of these were able to get picked up in some capacity, either in streaming. Many times, I know the New Yorker picks up a lot of stuff. You may see them on their Vimeos or YouTube, but more than anything, I'm curious to not just see these shorts come out, I'm curious to see what all of these filmmakers have in store next. So if you want to see our top 10 for CineYouth, click the link down below so you can check that out. If you're curious on checking out any of the stuff from Doc10, we might see you in some of the screenings, but definitely put these documentaries on your radar, because I guarantee you, out of the 5 that will be nominated for an Oscar, I think half of them are playing at this fest. Personally speaking, I would 100%.
They touted. They said out of the 15 that shortlisted, I think 7 were from Doc10 from last year. So something around. Those are great numbers.
Those are pretty good numbers. I'll say that. And since we've seen a couple of them, we could definitely vouch for them. So Doc10 Film Festival and CineYouth. Let us know your thoughts down below. A big shout out to all of our LME patrons, the A to Z Show patrons. We will have this list up there along with a little shortcut over here to our Chicago Critics one that we're going to be coming up with. As you can see, we make these notions for all the other stuff. I'm going to start putting them up for the patrons so that they could also follow along to keep a record of their favorites. Like we said, we like linking a lot of the letterboxes and everything in, so you can also keep your watch list steady. But we're curious to know your thoughts on which ones stood out to you, which ones, again, that we may have missed that should be on our radar. And until next time, keep watching movies, and we'll see y'all later. Take care.